This NFL team has a secret plan to steal Arch Manning. Ladies and gentlemen, spoiler alert. The NFL team in question is the New Orleans Saints. All right, this is Microphone, I believe is the channel's name. This was sent to me. I can already tell this is going to get my blood pressure going. So let's go ahead and watch the video and react, shall we?
Breaking news here on SportsCenter. Saints quarterback Derek Carr has retired.
These were two teams looking towards the future and the future draft, thinking that Arch Manning could be in it.
The New Orleans Saints are in one of the most unique situations in NFL history, and their solution might set them back decades. The Saints currently have a 26-year-old quarterback, veterans who are on the verge of demanding a trade, and a head coach who is younger than their highest paid player. How did the Saints get out of football purgatory? Is Tyler Shough the situation? Will Cam Jordan request a trade? How did the Saints get out of football purgatory? Is Tyler Shough the situation? Will Cam Jordan request?
What? All right. I mean, you know, we're 32 seconds in. We got Tyler Shough. I mean, I just don't understand it. I do not understand it. I really don't. I don't get how. I mean, yeah, it looks like Shaw, but damn, aren't we far enough from the draft? Didn't you watch the draft? How are you talking about this team and you don't know the name of the quarterback?
To trade, but more importantly, how did the Saints just gamble the next few years of their franchise on Arch Manning? By the way,
what? How did the Saints gamble on Arch Manning?
Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? Ever since Drew Brees retired after the 2020 NFL season, the Saints quarterback situation has been one of the most pathetic and mediocre in the entire NFL. In fact, since the 2021 season, the New Orleans Saints have started Jameis Winston, Andy Dalton, Ian Book, Trevor Siemian, Spencer Rattler, Jake Haener, and of course, Derek Carr. The reason I use mediocre to describe this.
Yeah, horrible carousel there. And, the Saints got caught. I mean, this is a sidebar to this, but the Saints got caught in a couple of different traps. The first trap was the Jameis Winston trap, where, Sean Payton thinks, hey, I can make Taysom Hill a starting quarterback. I can make this person a starting quarterback. I'll be fine with Jameis Winston. And it looks like he might be right. And then Jameis gets hurt. So then it's like, well, maybe we got something here. But then Sean Payton leaves. So then you're stuck in this limbo of, well, I guess we run it back with Jameis, but who's running it back? Dennis Allen and Pete Carmichael, who would make Joe Montana look bad. So then you have to go to Dalton, right? Simeon's thrown in the mix too at the end there. But Dalton, and then you got some young guys with Haener and Book, and last year was a little bit different with Rattler, because Rattler actually, Rattler was a bit of a different mold than the rest of those quarterbacks. The Derek Carr thing was the front office basically saying, like, okay, enough with the development, enough with the maybe we can get something out of this. Let's just go get someone we know is average. Let's just get someone we know for the last decade has been average. We know exactly what we're getting, and it almost worked. People forget that first year, the Saints went 9-8 and tied for the division. If Derek Carr doesn't get hurt in Green Bay and we blow that lead, the Saints win 10 games, they win the division. They're, NFC South champions, and 10 wins probably saves Dennis Allen's job over the long run, probably saves Pete Carmichael's job. It's crazy, the butterfly effect. And then obviously last year, and we are here where we are now.
Saints QB room is simple. These guys aren't bad, they're just not starting quarterback material. For those reasons, since the 2021 season, the Saints' collective record is just 30-38. Not good enough to make the playoffs, but just good enough to avoid.
What's crazy about this is, think about how bad everything's been, like how awful everything has been. And the Saints are 30-38. The Jaguars would cut their arm off to be 30-38. All right. So it is interesting that if you look at all those years and how bad it was, I've had people in the comment section that were like, when's the last time the Saints won 9 or 10 games? It's like 2 years ago, brother. Damn. Like, I know it's been rough, but good Lord, what's going on here?
Any premium draft selections. In fact, I think the funniest part of this whole situation is that the Saints intended on playing Derek Carr this season, as they've done the last 2 seasons as well. The reason I find this so comical is Derek Carr is the definition of average to below average quarterback, at least after he broke his leg in the 2016 season. However, after being diagnosed with a major shoulder injury this offseason, Carr decided to hang up his helmet after realizing he'd be out the entire 2025 season. This is really important because the Saints at least knew that they'd lose Carr the entirety of next season, and that's why they drafted Tyler Shough in the 2nd round. But more on him a little later. It doesn't matter who the Saints start at.
I mean, I guess we're gonna do the whole video with Tyler Shough. It is what it is, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, look, I mean, maybe I'm just built diffy. I would have 100% redone this video. There's no way there is no way I'd be able to live with myself and sleep at night. I already sleep horribly, but there's no way I'd be able to sleep at night if I knew I released a 14-minute video where I probably say Tyler Shough 1,000 times. No way.
Quarterback Spencer Rattler, Tyler Shough, or even Jake Haener. I don't think anybody expects the New Orleans Saints to be competitive next season, and for those reasons, it makes a lot of sense to believe that the front office is already looking ahead to the 2026 NFL Draft, and we're about to find out why I don't really blame them for that. Now, before we get to this, I have to tell you that this can easily backfire on the New Orleans Saints, but before we get to that, let's be a little positive for a second. For starters, the Saints did have a winning culture. I know they won a measly 5 games last year, but before that, they hadn't lost 10 games in a season since 2005. Now, I know I said I'm going to be positive for now, but I'm also going to be realistic. Tyler Shough is not the guy moving forward whatsoever.
Okay, so I guess my question is why? I guess my question is why he is not the guy. And I guess we're going to find out.
I said the Saints knew Derek Carr would be out the entire season if he did decide to play. They're going to draft Shough in order to transition back to Carr in 2026. That was the...
What? Hold on. Let me back that up. I have not heard this conspiracy.
Not the guy moving forward whatsoever. Like I said, the Saints knew Derek Carr would be out the entire season if he did decide to play. They're going to draft Shough in order to transition back to Carr in 2026. That was...
Okay, I can go ahead and tell you that is absolutely not what was happening. That is cooked in so many different ways. What was not happening was the Saints were not going to keep Derek Carr on the roster, injured for the entirety of 2025, and then go back to Derek Carr for the last year of his contract the following season. We already know the contract situation, and I know Microphone does not because he doesn't know Tyler Shough's name, but Derek Carr was on a 4-year deal. This would have been his 3rd year. His 4th year is where everything kicked in. He would have been making like $60-something million. He would have been the highest paid quarterback in the NFL. Well, who knows by the time, who knows where contracts will be, but more, he would be like the top 3 highest paid quarterback in the NFL. They were already restructured. They literally did restructure his deal before he retired, which everyone remembers he was mad about, even though it was in his contract. What was never going to happen was Carr would just sit out the year, get paid, and then come back and play. That was never the case. They would have either traded him, they would have cut him, they would have done so many different things. The only thing that was not going to happen was what Microphone just said was going to happen. And even more insane would be drafting a quarterback 40th overall to be a 1-year stopgap to go back to your 35-year-old quarterback at that point on the last year of his $60 million a year deal. I mean, that is... if I was scoring like a test or a quiz or something, like a 10-question multiple choice quiz, I mean, that hypothesis is 0 out of 10. It just misses across the board.
The plan all along, and honestly, I think with Derek Carr retiring, their plans might have just gotten even better. Instead of transitioning back to Carr in 2026, I believe the Saints will draft Arch Manning, and whenever he's done developing behind Shough, he'll become the franchise quarterback. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Shough is just a rookie. Why would they draft him in the second round just to draft a quarterback in the first round next year? And that's an excellent question. Well, Tyler Shough isn't your typical rookie, like at all. Before the draft, nobody thought that Tyler Shough was a top 3 QB in the draft, let alone worthy of a second round pick. But I understand where the Saints were coming from. Shough is,
I mean, I don't have to tell you all this, but Shough was, he was flirting with that QB2, flirting with that, could he sneak into the first round? He was certainly, whether he was quarterback 3 or quarterback 4 or whatever, but he was certainly thought of as a end of first, early second kind of guy. Like that was pretty much the consensus by the time the draft came around.
6'5", weighs 225 pounds, and is the perfect mold for what the NFL thinks a quarterback should be. He's played for 3 different teams when he was in college, meaning that he has experience in 3 different offenses. And of course, he suited up for 7 seasons of college football, meaning he has experience. And to top it all off, he's pretty mobile in the pocket. There's just one problem. Tyler Shough is going to turn 26 years old in September, meaning he's going to be a 26-year-old rookie. Now, this isn't to say that 26-year-old rookies can't succeed in the NFL. The first person that comes to mind when I think of old rookies is Brandon Weeden. And no, I'm not just bringing him up in order to show you this video of him getting eaten alive by an American flag. I'm bringing him up because he's the last highly touted early draft pick that was in his late 20s, and as we all know, he ended up being a huge bust. Or anytime I see a team that drafts a second round QB.
So, I mean, you don't have to go as far back as Brandon Weeden. You just have to go back to Bo Nix or Michael Penix. Bo Nix is a year younger than Tyler Shough. Bo was 24 when he was drafted, but turned 25 in February. So he's 25 this season, will turn 26 at the end of the season. Michael Penix was 23 when he was drafted, but turned 24 that May. So he was 24 last year. He is 25 now. And I understand that they're a little bit younger, but like right now, okay, Michael Penix is 25 when the season starts. Let's just say Tyler Shough is 26. And let's just say Bo Nix is 25, turning 26. In the grand scheme of things, that differential is not that big of a deal. Yeah, he is older, for sure. And there are problems that come with that, just like there are problems with drafting Penix, just like with Bo Nix. There's question marks where, look, you got a 25-year-old, 26-year-old. You need to develop quickly. You need to get to where you're going faster than a J.J. McCarthy, who's young, who can take a year off to develop, who can get a few years here and there. But I don't think anybody is saying Bo Nix, like, well, Denver has this problem because Bo Nix is already 25. Or, well, Atlanta has this problem because Michael Penix is already 25. It's not. It's just not that big of a deal as long as they get to where they're going fast enough. And the jury's still out on Michael Penix. But like Bo Nix, it is what it is. Does Denver wish that he was 23? Yeah, hell yeah. Does Denver wish he was 22? Sure. But he's 25. It is what it is. Just like Tyler Shough. If Tyler Shough gets to where he has to get to, and he is and that's kind of the gamble you make when you draft a experienced or older quarterback. The gamble is, yeah, they're older, but they won't have the development runway to get to, I don't want to say their final form, but to get to where they're a starter. We're banking that the experience makes him get there faster, like with Bo Nix, where, okay, plays a couple games, boom, he's pretty much there, and we're ready to roll, versus drafting a young guy, understanding, well, he's inexperienced, he's young, so it might take 2-3 years of growing pains. It's kind of the same thing. It's kind of the same puzzle. So I'm not going to sit here and say that, no, Tyler Shough being 26 is better than if he was 22. But I'm just saying, look around the league, and it's not insane to have a 26-year-old when you look at like Bo Nix and Michael Penix.
Throws him into the worst possible position. I either think of Will Levis with the Tennessee Titans, DeShone Kizer with the Cleveland Browns, and probably my favorite example of all, Jimmy Clausen when he was drafted in the second round of the 2010 NFL Draft. And in the case of Jimmy Clausen, if you guys don't remember, this is the guy that Mel Kiper famously said that if he doesn't pan out, he's going to retire from doing pre-draft analysis, and he didn't end up holding up his part of the bargain there. The very next year, you saw the Carolina Panthers draft Cam Newton. This past offseason, you saw the Tennessee Titans draft Cam Ward, and honestly, you can't really blame them because of how meme-worthy Will Levis has been throughout this past year. And if you forgot, there was this moment, and this, and this, and this. Now, I will admit, this is just lazy analysis. There's been times in the past where quarterbacks have surpassed our expectations, and Tyler Shough hasn't even taken a single snap at the NFL level. And Tyler Shough has an above-average supporting cast around him. I mean, he has Alvin Kamara, who could still turn back the clock, Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed, Brandon Cooks. Tyler Shough is as close to a finished product out of any quarterback in the 2025 NFL draft class. In my opinion, he is what he is at this point. Plus, let's be serious for a second. The Saints won 5 games last season. They have a brand new head coach, and their staple on the offensive line, Ryan Ramczyk, just retired, and they're replacing him with a rookie. They won't be better next season, and they
they're replacing him with Talise Fuaga, is moving over to the right. It is what it is, but I've covered this a million times, but the Saints will be better this season than last year. They have to be, just because of the injuries, just because of the new coaches, just because of the 9 draft picks. They have to be better.
You know what they're doing too, because they're doing it on purpose in order to tank and draft Arch Manning, the heir to the Manning throne, who's currently the starting quarterback at Texas. This actually fits perfectly with the Saints timeline as well. They can start Shaw this season, then in the offseason they get $30 million of cap space due to Derek Carr retiring, and at that point they can start rebuilding the team in order for Arch to take over. He might not be the starter immediately, but after sitting a year or two to develop behind Shaw, it'll be perfect. Plus, keep in mind that Shaw was a second-round pick, meaning he's less expensive than a first-round pick, and he doesn't have a 5th-year option. This is crucial because when his rookie contract is up, he'll be 30 years old, meaning the Saints are going to decide whether or not they want to give Shaw a contract right at the time that some QBs start to decline. Or if you're Geno Smith, it's when you begin to hit your prime after multiple teams failed you. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that the Saints probably have no intention of extending Shaw.
So when you look at quarterbacks and you look at age, well, I'll just pull it up. So as you can see, quarterback age is a little bit different where, with a running back or a wide receiver or whatever, 28 is kind of that year where you're like, all right, they're kind of probably going to fall off here. Quarterback is, I would extend that to probably about 32. Because if you look at like who's the quarterbacks in the 28 to 30 age range, no one's even thinking about Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, any of those guys falling off. Like they're expected to be at their peak and maybe even progressing a little more. Like people, I think, still expect Joe Burrow to take some more steps forward, right? So it's not until you get to that 32, 33, 34 where it's like, all right, might be falling off a little bit. So, you kind of have to extend the quarterback age. Yeah, third, it's the only position where it's really like that. Like running back, wide receiver, tight end, or whatever. Yeah, 30 is where it starts to kind of fall off. But quarterback, to assume that they're going to hit their prime and start descending at 30, I think is a bit much.
Beyond his rookie deal, this is the dream scenario for the Saints. Tank in 2025, get $30 million in cap space in the offseason, obtain a top 5 pick, then sign offensive talent, and hope that Kellen Moore can develop Arch Manning. But it's time to stop looking at the Saints with rose-tinted glasses, because there's a very real chance that this entire situation backfires on the New Orleans Saints in more ways than one. Now, as you guys could tell in this video, since we are in the middle of July, is very heavily speculative. For all you know, I'm wrong, and Tyler Shough is the next coming of Tom Brady. The scenario.
So, like, I don't. There's a lot in here. There's a lot in here that like the universal truths of just the NFL, just the Saints, just how things work. A lot of those universal truths are just straight up wrong in this video. And I was in an Uber recently. This is a sidebar. I was in an Uber recently, and the Uber driver, it was like a 4-minute trip. I don't even know how he got to this point this fast. But he immediately started telling me how the government or Jeff Bezos or somebody can control the weather, and that they just control the weather and they dictate when it rains, when it doesn't rain, hurricanes, fires, whatever. And there is no such thing as weather, naturally occurring weather, and it's all just like fabricated, whatever. And as I was listening to it, I was thinking, I was like, what could I even say? Like, what could I even say to this guy? Because once you go that far and your universal truths are that warped and everything is that fragmented, there's nothing I can say to make things make sense. There's nothing I can say to bring them back. You know what I mean? It's kind of like that with this video, where there's about 15 different universal truths that are just totally wrong. And so what am I supposed to say? You know, like, how am I supposed to I don't want to besmirch the guy. It is, you know, we're all out here in these YouTube streets trying to make videos. We're just trying to entertain the people, you know. But respectfully, this is some like casual stuff. You know what I'm saying? If I heard this in a bar, or if I heard this at a party, and this guy was spouting off this kind of stuff, I would, in my head, I would be like, this guy's never watched a game of football in his life. This guy's he does not watch the NFL. He's just piecemealing stuff he's read on subreddit. He's just piecemealing some crazy tweets from burner accounts. This guy's lost in the sauce. That's what I would think. Respectfully. What I would think.
The scenario I just talked about very well could happen, but this isn't Madden, and players aren't just computers. You can't download a draft class or extend a player because the game said you gave them enough money. In fact, if the Saints do tank next season, there's a very good chance they lose more than just games.
If I'm Cam Jordan, I'm ticked off.
Cause he trying to win now.
Yesterday. If I'm in the Bayou, I'm like, what are we doing? We haven't went out and got a quarterback yet. We had opportunities to draft a quarterback early. And while in the draft, you draft an offensive tackle.
Credit where credit is due. I honestly believe Cam Newton is spot on here, which honestly makes me feel a little uncomfortable because I disagree with Cam Newton on almost everything. But let's just take Cam Jordan for example. He is without a doubt a future Hall of Famer, and he's going to get his number retired in New Orleans one day. Jordan is an all-pro on the Hall of Fame's 2010 team. He has over 120 career sacks, and there's just one thing missing from the soon-to on the Hall of Fame.
Jordan is an all-pro. Asterisk. 7 years ago.
Pro on the Hall of Fame's 2010 team. He has over 120 career sacks, and there's just one thing missing from the soon-to-be 36-year-old's resume: a Super Bowl championship. Yeah, unfortunately for Cam Jordan, he joined the New Orleans Saints 2 seasons too late when they originally won their Super Bowl. And it's not just Jordan either. Alvin Kamara is about to turn 30, Demario Davis is 36, Taysom Hill is 35, and Tyler.
All right. This has come up a few times in recent videos. Like, well, fellas, you know, I hate it for you, but y'all were on those teams that didn't win a Super Bowl when the Super Bowl window was open. You know, like, y'all were there. And, like, Cam, I would love for Cam to win a Super Bowl. The Saints have had a Super Bowl winning window, well, besides the last couple of years, when Sean and Drew were here, for 15 years. You know, like, we had the best team in the NFL in 2018. Nothing to show for it. Right? We all know what happened in those 4 years. You know, the Rams game, Minnesota, Tampa, like that, it all happened. We had our shots. You know? When Brady and the Buccaneers won the Super Bowl, we had them beat in the dome in the playoffs. What happened? Vomit all over your shoes. Minnesota Miracle. Vomit all over your shoes. NFC Championship game against the Rams. Vomit all over your shoes. Minnesota in overtime. Kirk Cousins in a playoff game in the dome. Again, vomit all over your shoes. So I like this idea that, oh, well, you know, these vets aren't going to get their chance to win a Super Bowl. I can't believe it. It's like, well, what the hell? Y'all not been looking around? I mean, like, look, love him like a brother, but I don't really need to hear all this stuff about how it's horrible for Cam because he can't get a Super Bowl. What was horrible was watching the Rams march down the field to kick a field goal to send the game into overtime in the NFC Championship game. Maybe, like some of those moments could have been changed. And another spoiler, guys, we're in a rebuild. We are getting younger. We are turning over our players and our starters, and we're trying to figure out who's going to be the next impactful players. Like we're moving forward. We're not in a winning window. We're not trying to win a Super Bowl. We're trying to get things reset. And yeah, the aging players, it's like, yeah, they may think, well, I don't want to be in a rebuild. Okie dokie, Smokey. Well, head on over to the interstate, hit Causeway, and see you later. Like I don't know what else we can do. I mean, time moves on. There are veterans on all the teams in the NFL. A lot of these teams are rebuilding, and those veterans are probably looking around like, man, I want to win a Super Bowl. I want to win a Super Bowl before I call it quits. Well, yeah, I mean, there's 31 teams every year that don't get to win a Super Bowl, right? So every vet doesn't get a ring. If you want a ring, go to Ramsey's. Ramsey's is a jeweler store in Metairie, if you're not from here. That's what that was.
Tyrann Mathieu is 33, and the list of veterans goes on and on. You think these guys whose career is on the back nine want to spend the last few years of their career enduring a rebuild? Absolutely not. They're going to want out, and Cam Jordan has been very public about his frustrations losing. They're either going to demand their release or hold out of training camp until they're traded. It's that simple. Drafting an offensive tackle in the first round might be a win-now move if you have a quarterback, but guess what? The Saints don't have a starting caliber QB. They're literally telling their players they're building the offensive line for the future. Plus, what about Kellen Moore? Moore's been the talk of head coaching jobs ever since he was an offensive coordinator back in Dallas. But for some reason, general managers kept passing over the man who helped develop Dak Prescott into a $60 million quarterback and had the best offense in football in 2021. It could be for several reasons, but how is a 36-year-old head coach who's younger than some players going to convince a group of veterans that they have a real chance at a Super Bowl with Tyler Shough or Spencer?
He's not. No one is. Kellen Moore is not coming in there saying, hey guys, this year we're competing for a Super Bowl. That's not what's happening.
Rattler or Jake Haener? The answer is he won't. The veterans have been around football as long, if not longer than Moore. They know this is a developmental and tanking year for New Orleans. So is tanking for Arch Manning while using Tyler Shough as a bridge quarterback really the best decision?
Well, no, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. But good news is that's not what's happening.
Especially if you're not even guaranteed to draft Arch Manning. I say that because there's a real chance that Arch stays at Texas after this season. That's right, aside from pure speculation, we have no evidence suggesting that Arch Manning will declare for the 2026 NFL draft. Why make your veterans?
Well, there's actually evidence for the contrary. There's evidence that he's not going to go to the draft. But also, you have to factor in, how good will he even be? We have no clue how good he is. What if Cade Klubnik is better? What if Drew Aller is better? What if any of the quarterbacks are better? What if Arch Manning is a 3rd round, 4th round, 5th round pick? That's a wrinkle as well, even if he did come out this year for the draft. And I'm not going to get into this again because I've made a million videos on this. Tanking is not a thing. Tanking in the NFL does not happen, cannot happen. There is evidence to why tanking is not a thing. People always say, well, Miami. Well, no, those are actually examples of where the ownership wanted to tank, but the coaches and players said, yeah, we're not tanking. The Lovie Smith Texans year, all the Texans had to do was lose their last game, get the 1st overall pick. Instead, Lovie went out and won it. New England, Gerard Mayo, same thing. Hey, man, if you lose, that'd be cool. Oop, LOL, we win. Never, ever happens. Not going to happen. Never will happen. Not a thing. tanking, red flag, dead giveaway. You don't know ball.
Upset, throw away a year, and take a 26-year-old bridge quarterback with a second-round pick if you're not even guaranteed to get your guy. That doesn't make much sense to me at all, but maybe I'm being too negative now.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. So why did you make this video?
Maybe what's going to happen in New Orleans in the next few years is more complex than that. Now that we've covered the most positive and negative outcomes for the Saints, it's time to talk about what's probably going to happen. First off, in order to find out what's going to happen, we need to wait until the college football season starts, because for all we know, Arch Manning might not be as good as we thought. I mean, seriously, he's thrown just 95 passes in his entire college career.
You made the video!
And while I know there were 95 awesome passes, it's still a small sample size. Second, we need to see how Tyler Shough does as a rookie. I know I said he's a bridge quarterback, and I really do believe that given that he's 26 years old already. But honestly, who knows? Maybe he goes on a Kurt Warner sort of run and lights the league on fire as a 27-year-old. Finally, what do veterans on this team decide to do? Aging veterans who want to add a ring to their trophy case could request a trade or demand their release. However, we're forgetting the human aspect of football. Guys like Cam Jordan, Demario Davis, or Tyrann Mathieu either grew up as Saints fans or are an integral part of the local community. There's a chance they could value their home and roots more than a chance at a Lombardi, and we won't know whether or not that's true until the end of the trade deadline.
Even if they all did say, even if they all did say, we're not playing, we want to be traded, we want to be whatever, the Saints are already planning for that. That's already part of this. It's the natural cycle of an NFL roster where aging players give way to younger players. The aging players decide to either retire or go chase a ring somewhere else. And if that happens, fine. Because newsflash to all these people who are making videos about Cam, he's not our starter. He is playing less than 40% of snaps. Chase Young exists. Carl Granderson exists. All right? Newsflash with Tyrann Mathieu. We just drafted a safety in Jonas Sanker. Newsflash with Demario Davis. We just drafted Danny Stutzman. Like we're doing this already. Like this turnover is already happening with the aging players. You know, like I wish Alvin Kamara, Drew Brees, Jimmy Graham, Michael Thomas, Marcus Colston, I wish all these guys could play forever. I wish they'd be 30-year, 40-year vets. Doesn't happen. You've got to draft their replacement. You got to sign their replacement. It's just part of life. It's just part of the NFL. You know, so if all those guys held out, what would happen is, okay, well, Danny Stutzman's your starting linebacker now. Jonas Sanker's your starting safety now. Nothing happens with the defensive line. And then we figure out whether it's Devin Neal or Kendra Miller or whoever. Boom, now you're the starting running back. There you go. It's planned for. It's expected. It will happen. At some point, our vets will move on.
9 months in the future. However, this entire situation could go multiple ways, and it's easy to see how. Personally, I think Arch will enter the 2026 NFL Draft, and I really do think the Saints want to complete the Manning cycle and make Arch Manning their franchise QB, making him the first Manning to start for the Saints since his grandfather in 1982. The one thing,
you know what's weird? Why don't we ever hear about how the Colts want to complete the Manning cycle? Or why don't we ever hear about how the Giants want to complete the Manning cycle? Or the Broncos want to complete the Manning cycle? Like, why is it always the Saints? Because this isn't Archie's kid. You know, like, I mean, I wasn't doing videos back then, but was there this conversation about them? Was there this conversation with Eli and Peyton? I mean, like, the whole thing is just so weird. I mean, it's almost kind of a stretch. It's almost kind of a like, yeah, I understand his grandpa played here in, 50 years ago, but I don't think people in the building are that desperate to complete the Manning cycle. I mean, Kellen Moore's 36. Kellen Moore didn't watch Archie Manning. Like, none of these guys watched Archie. None of these guys care. Who cares? I mean, that's what I don't get. Like, why didn't Peyton go to Ole Miss? Why Peyton didn't want to complete the Manning cycle? First thing Peyton did, see ya, I'm going to Tennessee. I think these narratives are just so overblown. You know, I mean, I get it. You know, like, were the Colts doing everything they could to go get Marvin Harrison Jr. to complete the Marvin Harrison cycle? I mean, it's just kind of weird, you know? Like, this much talk about this. I mean, like, you're talking about 50 years. No offense to Archie, but nobody cares. Would it be cool? I don't even know. Maybe. Whatever. You know, like, would it be cool to see Arch Manning play for the Indianapolis Colts like Peyton did? And they can have the same name on the jersey? I guess. Like think about this, okay? As a Saints fan, I'm sure there's a majority of people watching this are Saints fans. If Arch Manning was drafted by the Indianapolis Colts, would you be like, damn, that's freaking cinema. I gotta watch Monday Night Football because I got to see Arch in a Colts jersey because Peyton was in a Colts jersey and they had the same last name. Wouldn't that be? I gotta take off work, honey. Get the DVR out. We gotta record this. It's going to have the same last name on the jersey. Would you think that at all, or would it just be like, I mean, yeah, okay, whatever?
I do have doubt in is why draft Tyler Shough. He's not going to be your franchise QB 10 years down the line for multiple reasons, primarily his age. And if you're dead set on drafting him, why in the second round? That's an extremely valuable pick you could have used on another skill position or offensive line. I honestly don't think any 26-year-old rookie who's not a generation.
If you're dead set on drafting him, why not take? If you're dead set on drafting him in the second round, why not take someone else like an offensive lineman? Brother, we took an offensive lineman 9th overall. We already did that. Here's a crazy theory. What if they took Tyler Shough in the second round because they thought he was good? Interesting.
Talent is worthy of a draft pick in the top 2 rounds, especially a quarterback who will be 30 at the end of their rookie deal. Another thing I'm interested in seeing is, will the veterans buy into the 36-year-old unproven head coach? I know it's easy for people to point at Sean McVay and say that age isn't important for a head coach, but Sean McVay is certainly the exception and not the standard. If Moore can convince the veterans to buy into the culture of the team, then that problem is wiped out entirely. These are the only holes I see in the Saints' plan, but the only question remaining is, will it work? I don't really have a definitive answer to that question, but I honestly think it will work in 2026. I believe that Kellen Moore is a great offensive mind who has an amazing ability to craft an offense around his quarterback's strengths and weaknesses. He built a great offense for both the Cowboys and Eagles, whose quarterbacks have 2 extremely different styles of play. Dak likes to air the ball out, while Jalen Hurts thrives with RPOs. I just hope that he doesn't win too much and puts the Saints out of contention for Arch Manning. But
I mean, can you imagine? I just hope they don't win too much. And I hope this Saints team doesn't win too much so they don't get a chance to draft this guy who's not going to be in the draft, who we have no idea how good he's going to be. Ooh, that would be horrible. Can you imagine if the Saints win too much and they can't draft this hypothetical player who probably won't be in the draft?
who knows? Maybe I'm wrong, and Kellen Moore ends up becoming one of the worst coaches in NFL history. Or maybe you think Arch Manning stays at Texas until 2027. Maybe you think I'm wrong about Tyler Shough and you truly believe...
I know that. I think we all agree. If there's one thing we can all agree on is that he's wrong about Tyler Shough.
That he's the future of the Saints. Anything is possible for this Saints franchise whose future is as murky as the swamp in the bayou. After the dust clears, will there be Arch Manning and Lombardi trophies in the future, or will the Saints keep searching for a franchise QB years and years from now?
I mean, this is an unserious AF video. I mean, straight up. Like, no hate. It is what it is. Like I said, we all, different strokes for different folks. But this, thank God I'm around. Thank God I'm putting out videos. Thank God I'm here. Thank you. Thank you for making me how I am. Thank you for giving me the ability to do what I do every single day. And from saving the people. Because if it wasn't for me, God, imagine what they'd be watching on a daily basis. I mean, I could write a 20-page paper on why this video was just wrong in every single way. But Okay, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, buy a shirt, buy a mug, huh? What are we saying? Buy a shirt, buy a freaking mug. I'll see you in the next video.